The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hi, this is David Anderson, guitarist on Soilwork, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to have Mr. David Anderson, guitarist of Soilwork. Soilwork is set to release their 11th studio album entitled Verkligheten, and I hope I got that correct, but I probably didn't because David's going to correct me anyway.
No, it's getting better all the time.
It's set to release January 11th, 2019 via Nuclear Blast and will feature 12 tracks. First edition digipacks and vinyl releases will also come with the exclusive Underworld EP. This is Soilwork's first new release since 2015's The Ride Majestic. See, that's easy to pronounce. Also, they are two different album art covers, and we're going to be talking about all of this. And plus, Soilwork will embark on an extensive European co-headlining run with label mates Infamous and Nailed to Obscurity, as well as the Mighty Ginger, from January 11th through February 16th. So, awesome bands going to be on this tour with you guys. So, David, how's it going?
That's going great. We're out on tour right now with the Night Flight Orchestra, other band, so we're in Czech Republic tonight.
Let's jump right into this, my friend. It's been more than 3 years since the band's last album. How's it feel to finally get this album out, or just get something out to the fans finally?
No, it feels great. I mean, the band has done a lot of touring after the last album. Then we've been busy with other stuff as well, and a lot of stuff has happened in our lives, and we had some lineup changes and stuff. So, but we're all like really excited about this new album. I think it's a new page in Soilwork history.
I'd seen Bjorn talking about the diversity of each album. How crucial is it for you guys to not repeat each album over and over? How crucial is that for you all?
I think that's very crucial. I mean, Soilwork has been around as a band for 20 years, and I guess all bands are different. I mean, you do have the Slayers and AC/DCs of the world that are doing the same stuff and keeping their own sound pretty much intact. Whereas we as a band, I think we wouldn't exist if we didn't try to evolve and do new stuff and create. I mean, our goal with each album is to create music that doesn't really exist before. It sounds a bit pretentious and ambitious, but I mean that's what keeps it fun. I mean, metal can be a very conservative genre in a way, and at the same time, it's a real challenge to try to do something new and interesting within that context. And I think so far we've at least for the last couple of albums, we've really tried to push the envelope and go someplace new, but still keep the extreme elements and the melodic elements and reassemble those parts in a different way. I don't know if we succeed, but personally, I think we've done a good job with the new album.
Yeah, you've succeeded, my friend, by far.
Thanks.
What was the appeal for the first single to be Arrival? I know there had to be another one close for the first single, but what was the appeal for this one for you guys?
I mean, it's a nice up-tempo song, and personally, I like the shuffle blast beats and everything, and it's kind of both. It has all of the elements that want to present. I mean, we do have the extreme metal drumming and like the more old school riffing and also some almost psychedelic parts to it, and a rocking guitar solo and a nice chorus. I mean, that's pretty much everything you need from a Soilwork song, right?
And I want to throw this out here, and I'm not knocking any bands out there whatsoever, but it seems like the guitar solo has went away. Seems like in a way, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on which sub-genre of metal you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, as for Soilwork, I mean, me and Sylvain, are my guitar playing colleague. We're both like very much old school guitar players. We like the classic guitar solo approach. I mean, we're both grown up with listening to all the classic stuff by like Randy Rhoads, Richard Blackmore, Ingo Malmsteen, what have you, and that's something that we try to. I think that's a big part of any kind of metal needs to have some solos every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It just for me, I mean, growing up, that was like one of the major reasons why I became a guitar player in the first place. It was listening to those great solos on those classic '80s albums, and for me, it wouldn't be a metal record if you didn't have like at least an attempt to do some classic soloing on it.
Exactly. Yeah. See, I'm the same way. To me, a great metal song has to include the guitar solo. It has to.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to Van Halen and Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica, stuff like that. They had that, and Randy Rhoads. They had that guitar solo. So kudos.
And it's also like from a compositional approach, it's also a nice excuse to go someplace else with a song and do something different.
Yeah.
And it adds to the variety, and that's also something that, I mean, personally, as a songwriter, I'd like to use that as an excuse to just go a bit further out.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly, man. What's impressed or excited you the most about making the new album? What's caught your eye about it, if anything, possibly? This
time around, me and Björn wrote all the songs for this album, and I guess when we had a couple of songs started piling up, and it felt like we had some really strong and quite interesting material. That was a big, was really exciting for me, because I really wanted to see what we can do with those songs, and also having our new drummer Bastian and see what he could contribute in the studio was also really interesting. And we also worked with Thomas Fleck Johansson, which is a great producer and an old friend of mine, and we worked with him with Soilwork for the first time, and that was also something that was like a breath of fresh air. So we had a lot of like new and exciting things that we really wanted to present to our fans.
So working with him, David, did he just let you guys go along and then step in when he needed to, or did he push you really hard on this one?
No, he's not a pushy kind of guy. I mean, to be honest, our albums are mostly like self-produced, because we've all been doing this for a long time, and then we all have lots of studio experience. So it's not like he was pushing us in a way. It was more like he was there to he's a fantastic engineer, and has a great ear, and he has a great guitar amp collection as well, and he's a great guitarist himself. So me and him had lots of fun recording the guitars and the bass tracks, and coming up with sounds and ideas, and experimenting a lot with various like textures and guitar sounds. And like I said, he's an old friend of ours, especially of mine, and he's a real fun guy to be with. So he made the sessions for this album never felt like a job. It was more like a vacation. It was just a real joy, and I think that you can hear that on the album.
Yeah.
Even if you're not supposed to be happy when you play metal, but I think you can hear that there's a kind of like a joy, and there's a nice easygoing atmosphere in there at the same time as we try to discuss some pretty heavy subjects every once in a while.
Are there any songs off this new album stand out more to you than any on it as of right now possible? I mean, I know these must change every time you listen to it, David, but do you have any that stick out for you possibly?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general there's a new element of sort of like, there's an element more like classic rock riffing, like more Kiss, Motley Crue type 80s rock riffs that we try to incorporate into the modern metal context, and that's really exciting for me. And personally, one of my personal favorites are Stålfågel, which is another Swedish name that's going to be the next single, I think, and that's I think that's a really interesting combination of genres on that one, and it's like a pop song, but it still has lots of extreme metal elements in it, and it's I don't think I've heard a metal band sound like that before, and that's always something that's exciting and new. I mean, that's what we aim for with every new album, and I think that song for me is a really good example of that. Also, there's another song called When the Universe Spoke, which is probably the fastest song on the album, but lots of blast beats and extreme drumming, but still we incorporate some interesting psychedelic, almost Beatles-esque elements in there as well, and I mean, I guess that's also a standout track for me. But I mean, I'm really proud of this whole album.
What made you guys decide on 2 album covers? Let's talk about that a little bit.
We want to do something different for this album, and we had the chance to work with a new artist, and it was my idea to have like a more Roger Dean like album cover, like almost like a, you know, Roger Dean, who did all the classic Yes albums like Relayer and Fragile, and I want to have that sort of like dreamy, almost fantasy-like album cover. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the covers, and then the record label also wanted to have an alternative cover with a more how do you say, like just a logo and a symbol and something that really caught people's eyes and weren't that busy. Mm-hmm. I think that's nice as well. So you have like both the more classic metal type album cover, and then you open it up, and then you have this like whole fantasy landscape thing inside. It's kind of a nice little touch, I guess.
Now, this album marks the first to feature drummer Bastian Thusgaard. What has Bastian added to the band, if anything, possibly, David?
Oh, he's added a lot of things to the band. First of all, he's still a young guy. He's just like 25 years old, and he brought a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and which was kind of contagious. I mean, it's always easy to write your first album, but once you're on your 11th album, it can get a bit difficult to find the right source of inspiration. I mean, I think having him in the band was really inspiring, because he really took his time to create interesting drum parts for every song on this album, and also the recording process also differed. I mean, most metal bands they do like they record the drums first, and then the drummer leaves, and then you just layer guitars and bass and so like build things up in a very traditional way, and the vocals always comes last, etc. Whereas with Bastian, he stuck around in the studio for the entire recording session, and then added percussion and stuff afterwards, and we went in and changed some drum tracks like in the middle of the process, when we felt that we could like do something even more interesting, and that's sort of like I think the whole drum/percussion side of this album is really interesting. It makes for a more interesting listening experience. I mean, it's not just your classic heavy metal drumming. It's something more than that, and even if it's not obvious during the first listen, I think it grows on you the more you listen to the album.
What can fans expect at a show from the mighty Soilwork who have not got to see you guys live as of yet?
Oh, we're still pretty much, I mean, we don't have much in the way of pyrotechnics or special effects or anything like that. It's still like based around the strength of the songs and the strength of the musicianship, and just being a real honest metal band who really wants to focus on the music and the playing, and just giving people an intense experience without any fancy gadgets or anything like else.
Now, I know you guys have been around for a long time, and now we're living in the digital era of recording albums to get music out quicker. And plus, we got social media now to reach out to more fans who have possibly not got to hear Soilwork's music as of yet. Do you like this that we're living in now, to get albums out quicker, and plus social media to reach more fans out there?
I don't know. For me, it's not a question about whether I like it or not. It's more a question of accepting it, and I think it's an inevitable evolution. I mean, Personally, I'd probably prefer it if people were still buying vinyl albums, and I mean, the way it was when I grew up, and at the same time, you have to accept that things evolve, and people today they're expecting things to be available in a way it wasn't before, and I mean, I think you just have to accept that it will continue to evolve, and probably in like 10, 20 years time from now, I guess music will just be a sub genre of like some sort of like overall entertainment thing. I mean, I have kids myself, and they don't listen to music the way I did when I was a child. I mean, they like the whole they like a whole package with like you need gaming and music and visuals and videos and storylines, and I think that's what we're heading towards, some sort of like more like whole package where the music is just one part of it. I mean, for me, obviously, it's I'd prefer it to be the way it was when I was growing up. And I mean, you bought vinyl albums, and if you were a guitar player, you became a guitar hero. These days, it's a bit more complicated, but I mean, that's the way it is. And I mean, as long as, I mean, at the same time, these days, every genre can coexist. It's not like you have when I grew up. I mean, you had the hair metal era, and then the grunge era, and then the nu metal era, and then the metal death era, and whatever. But these days, those genres can all coexist, and there's a scene for everyone, and that's a good thing for me. I mean, you can play pretty much whatever kind of music you want, and there's still, as long as it's good enough, there will always be a scene for it. Even if you won't become a new Metallica or Iron Maiden, you will still be able to get your music out there, and hopefully get some listeners.
And plus, back in the day, you had to wait till your favorite magazine came out to see who all's new and who's doing what back in the day.
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's both good and bad. I mean, but I think it's just you just have to accept that things evolve.
What made you want to become a musician, David? What was that spark for you that said, yeah, that's what I want to do right there? It
happened when I was so young that I mean, I think the first spark was, I mean, I always liked music, and when I was like 5, 6 years old, I started listening to my mom's Beatles records, and it was like this otherworldly sound, and the whole experience of hearing that kind of sound was just overwhelming, and I guess that's when I just got stuck. And when I just felt that whatever I wanted to do with my life, music had to be a part of it, and then I started playing myself when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I started buying more like hard rock and metal records, and starting to appreciate like guitar players like Randy Rhoads, Richard Blackmore, and all the classic stuff, and I guess I didn't have much of a choice. It was something that I really wanted to do, and luckily I managed to at least become a guitar player in the end.
In your own opinion, what does Soilwork bring to the table for music? I mean, I know you guys are not reinventing the wheel, you're doing your own thing, but what do you guys bring to the table for music that may not be out there as of right now?
What's unique about it is probably that we're really trying to do something new and interesting, and bring it together, like the whole traditional death metal thing with more of also a classic rock approach somewhere in there, and also to have those like more Scandinavian melancholic melodies on top of everything. I think we're sounding more and more Scandinavian and more. I mean, I think there's a tonality and a kind of melancholic thing to our songwriting that's quite unique these days, especially when you add some more extreme metal drumming to that whole blend. I think it's a unique combination. But I mean, at the same time, like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're perhaps like reassembling the wheel in a different way, but it's still around.
Is there a country that stands out or still shocks you to this day that Soilwork gets played in or gets support from? I mean, there has to be one.
I mean, for me, it's still pretty amazing that we've been able to tour all around the world, including like Australia, Japan, Asia, South America, and the US. I mean, that's something that I never dared to dream about when I was growing up. I mean, that we're able to do a show in like Malaysia or Colombia or whatever, and people show up and actually know the songs. That's, I mean, all of it is quite amazing, really, when you think of it.
What's it mean to you when you receive an email from a fan, or prior to the shows or after the shows, they tell you that Soilwork's music has pulled them through a bad experience, or gave them the inspiration to overcome obstacles, or just made them relax and get away from the everyday bullshit that we go through? What's that mean to you guys?
That's one of the main reasons why we're doing this. I mean, at least for me, whenever I write a song, I always want people to be moved by it, or have some sort of feel some sort of connection to it. And so when you meet people, or when you get messages like that, that's the reason why you want to continue. Well, one of the main reasons, because I mean, if you do, personally, I would never be able to create music in a vacuum. I like to hear people's response to it, and know that people like it, or are touched by what we're trying to convey. So yeah, that's a huge part of why we're still around, at least personally.
I just like to say, as a fan of Soilworks for a long time, thank you guys for what you guys are still doing, and just kudos for everything you guys have done.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Folks, Soilwork's new album, actually their 11th studio album, is going to be released January the 11th, so you want to pick that up. David, how can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy this new album, Tour Dates, merchandise? How can you do that, my friend?
It's probably easiest through our Facebook page these days. And you can also look up Nuclear Blast homepage and our own Soilwork.org homepage.
Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
No, sure. Hi, this is David Anderson, guitarist on Soilwork, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please go out and check out our Facebook page. That'll have all of our links there, for including our podcast and our YouTube page. And please get out and check out Soilwork and grab their new album that's coming out January the 11th. Thank you so much, David, for doing this interview with me, my friend.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
That's when I take